Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Legendary Aspects. Today we're going to be going over a legendary aspect which is kind of a strange one. I've always thought it was a little strange, but I also thought it could be really interesting to generate resource from. It's called the Assimilation Ring, and basically it has two parts to it. The first part is you have an 8% increased dodge chance versus enemies affected by a damage over time effect, like fire damage, shadow damage over time, bleeding damage, poisoning damage, etc. Anything that causes a damage over time dot should potentially work for this, and it gives you a nice little bump in your total dodge number. Now, if you're a rogue, you probably already have a lot of dodge because rogues tend to stack dexterity, and dexterity, of course, gives you dodge percentage. So if you go down to your defensive, you probably have at least some dodge percentage. Of course, when you put this ring on, you're going to get a little bit more dodge percentage, 8% for making them, bleed or poison or shadow or whatever, which is definitely going to be nice. The other part of this is when you dodge, you gain 5 to 10 of your primary resource, which is actually quite a bit of primary resource. So now what does that mean? That means that if you go outside of town, let me fire off my resource here so I'm losing all of it. Just try and keep that empty until I find a group of monsters. And essentially what you're doing here is you're trying to just simply get hit. Every time you dodge, you're going to gain primary resource. And of course, I'm not dodging at all, am I? Can I dodge at least one attack? Obviously, for this ring to really give you a good benefit, there you go, I dodged a couple of times. You would need to have a large amount of dodge. Now, obviously, to get the 8% though, I'm going to have to apply a damage over time effect to the monsters before I run in there. Because obviously I'm not getting the additional 8% unless they are, of course, bleeding or, in other words, poisoned in some way, shape, or form. Which, if you are a, poison character, tons of different characters that can definitely utilize this, you can get some pretty good regeneration out of it. Now, as a ranged character, maybe not so much, but as a melee character, maybe much more better. I think the Assimilation Ring is one of those odd rings that kind of works good on a lot of different characters, but it really depends on if you stack dodge or not. Obviously, the percentage of this actually going off is directly proportional to the percentage of dodge that you have as a character. You can get dodge percentages on boots. I believe you can get conditional dodge percentages on various items. I think pants have a conditional dodge. It's like a percentage dodge when you're injured or something, and of course you could also get the 8% from the actual ring itself for the damage over time effects, and stacking dexterity itself will also give you additional dodge. So you can get a pretty hefty amount of dodge percentage to activate the Assimilation Ring and make it useful. It really, though, comes down to the fact of whether or not you can dodge on a regular basis. It also means that you do have to actually get hit, because the monster has to take a swing at you for the percent chance of dodge to actually take effect. And that's just the way it is. Now, this particular ring can be gambled if you're trying to get your hands on it, and it does have some large variable there of 5 to 10, and you're probably going to want a 10 if you're actually going to use it. The Assimilation Ring, why do I want to say the Assimilation? Resistance is futile. Resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. It is only available in a ring slot because it is a resource. A lot of the resource, not all of them, but a lot of the resource aspects are specifically locked to the ring slot. This does mean that the best character to gamble this on is rings on the rogue. And the reason for this is because she has the least number of competing aspect slots out of all of the characters. Now, if you go take a look at the panel here, you'll notice that the rogue is at the top with 0.044. And right below that is the barbarian, then the sorcerer, then the druid, and then finally the dead last is the necromancer, because he has some of the most, the highest number of aspects on the ring out of all the characters. I'm not really sure how bad I feel about this one. I feel like you'd have to build a character around dodge to really get a good benefit from this. And if you didn't build a character around dodge, well, it's not going to be very useful to you. In fact, it's pretty much useless to any character that doesn't have a high percentage dodge chance. And the rogue is really the main character that gets quite high in the dodge percentage, mainly because she already gets a really nice amount from dexterity because she's stacking that, and then she also gets a decent amount from items like boots. I think you can also get some from the pants. I'm not sure all the spots that you could potentially get dodge chance on, but you can definitely get a little bit of dodge chance here and there, as well as I think, if I remember correctly, there is some on the Paragon board, although I could be wrong about that. It's been a little while since I took a look at the Paragon board for the rogue, looking for dodge chance. Although if I was going to build this ring, I would definitely look for any and all sources of bonus dodge percentage that I could get, because the more dodges that I was capable of getting, the more resource I would get back. And of course, it would also make me relatively tanky. And I think that's also something that we have to talk about in terms of the dodge chance, is that dodge is not a particularly effective way of making your character tanky. It's very important to note that dodge chance actually makes your character more sustainable, but not more tanky. It's important to note this because, how do I explain this? Let's say that there's a monster who's dishing out, like more HP than I have in damage. So he's dishing out, say, like 7,000 HP in damage, and I only have 5,607. Now, if he hits me, well, I'm dead. If I dodge it, then I'm not. But if I fail to dodge it, then I'm dead. So building dodge always keeps you alive until it doesn't. Now, what this does do for you, though, is it reduces the frequency of hits, which means that if I have enough tankiness to actually survive, I can actually survive better with more dodge percentage, because the dodge percentage will lower the frequency that the hits connect to me and allow me to heal myself easier, which in turn creates a more survivable character, just simply based on sustain. I don't need as much HP to heal myself because I'm not taking as much damage, you see. I think that's pretty much it for this ring. There's not much more to talk about with the Assimilation ring. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watch my videos, even when we're just talking about the assimilation aspect. And as always, keep watching.